Hi. So before we start, we should mention
Yes.
that this is the 150th anniversary of the Y. I was here 150 years ago.
You have been here a lot.
I have.
There are pictures of her backstage
What?
with like Larry David and
Yes.
Susie Essman.
Yes, I did a series called Funny People here. I interviewed George Carlin and Nathan Lane and all the funny people. Anyway,
I only interviewed Justice Sotomayor, so
that's good.
she's serious.
Can't beat that one. Yeah. Let's see. Justice Sotomayor, Mo Curley, and the Three Stooges. Just to say what a great place this has been for so many unbelievably talented people have come through these walls.
Yeah.
They don't come through the doors, basically. They just come through the walls. But like, Yasha Heifetz probably was here, Yo-Yo Ma, Itzhak Perlman, all of the great musicians, the great thinkers.
Yeah.
It's a very good place.
And now they have us.
And then there's us. So Sunny has written this very good book. This is her second book.
It is. Well, it's my third. But
It's your third?
It's my third.
Well, what was the first one?
My first one was my memoir. My mother's in the
that's
audience.
right.
She didn't like it.
Which I read that.
And this is my first, Summer on the Bluffs was my first fiction, and this is my second fiction. It's a trilogy.
I asked her mother backstage, do you mind when Sunny talks about you and tells all your dirty laundry? No, I do not like it, she said. So I thought she's referring to the memoir.
She is referring to the memoir, but my mother took the memoir off of our front coffee table without permission, and it wasn't quite done yet, and she stole it and then read it and then didn't speak to me for 2 weeks.
What did you say that was so bad?
I can't see her, but
she's here. But what
she
was
is here.
What did you
She's
say
there.
that was... Sonny, what did you say that was so bad?
I didn't think anything was bad. She said I made my father look like a prince.
Like a prince.
A little bit of a daddy's girl.
So we'll get to the book in a minute, but let's just talk a little bit about our job.
Yes.
Okay.
That we love so much.
So I told you one time that the minute you give your opinion, you're going to lose half the audience.
Yes.
Was I right?
Unfortunately, you were. I didn't believe her, and I should have because she's been there since the beginning. But, you have this, well, I did at least, I wanted to be liked. And in this climate, you're not going to be liked because it's so divisive and half the people will disagree with you. And because they disagree with your opinion about something, they decide they don't like you.
That's right.
And that was hard for me. But you told me it was okay.
It is what it is. I told Elizabeth Hasselbeck, don't read Twitter.
Oh, you can't read the comments. It's a hellscape. People are horrible.
They're very mean and they're
horrible.
Anonymous.
Yeah, they hide behind those little cat avatars all the time, right? It's like a cat or something. And then when this is a true story. I looked at the comments and she called me a bitch. And then I looked and it was like Christian grandmother of 5.
Oh, yeah.
I love God. I was like, wow, you love God and you're calling me nasty names. Unbelievable. And she was hiding behind a cat avatar.
Yeah. And we're not really supposed to go back at them. You're not supposed to answer them because it just keeps the thing rolling.
And it makes it relevant.
But I do once in a while.
You do? You say things? You told me not to look at them.
I do. I say things.
I didn't know that. You told me not to look at them.
I mean, when they say horrible things like, I hope you die soon, I go, nice. Nice. Like that. I'm not going to engage them too much, but anyway.
I'll try that.
But so why do we keep doing it then? If it's slings and arrows. I mean, I'm there for 26 years, I mean, and she's been there a long time
7 years now.
7 years. And it's a job that every woman wants. I mean, they're clamoring for the job.
And they don't know. They don't know. If they knew. I think we make it look easier than it is.
You think it's hard to do?
I do think it's hard to do. I mean, you know this, the night before, we get about 50 to 60 hot topics in a packet. And if you're doing the job right, you read all of that. So I'm up, my husband can attest to it. He's in the audience, my gorgeous husband. And I take several hours at night reading through these things.
I know.
And then in the morning they send us more. Some
Yeah.
of our producers are here. They send us more in the morning at like 7 a.m. And you have to be able to distill all of these facts and information and share 7 minutes with 5 opinionated women.
Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
And then you say something and we're unscripted and you may say something off color and then you get the nasty cat lady. I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
I think it's harder than it looks.
And sometimes they threaten to pull the advertisers out,
Yeah.
Then that's when everybody gets all panicky.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, it's a beautiful platform though. We get people like you. We get to have the privilege of being voices for people that don't
I
have
delude
it.
myself that way also.
That what?
That I actually am making a difference.
We are. I tend to think we are.
I don't know.
mean,
Thank you.
I
Maybe.
think so.
I think that, I remember when Fetterman was on.
Yes.
Fetterman, they were saying he was feeble, he was this, he was that, and we had him on the show on Friday, and the following Tuesday was Election Day, and he was so good that he won on Tuesday, and I think we helped that.
I think we helped that.
Once in a
yeah.
while, it's sort of glaring that way, we help somebody.
It's
Or
true.
we hurt people too, like Trump. You know what? We have taken him on how many years? Well, you were there 10 years. He was there like, how many years is it now that we have to endure
That's
this
true
guy?
because I started auditioning in 2012. So
Yeah. So 16 is when he came down on the escalator,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And called people rapists
And then his grabbed them by the, And so but we go after him all the time. It's funny, he doesn't come back at us. Is
No,
he scared of us?
He doesn't want to come on the show. He's afraid.
He's scared of us, yeah.
He's fearful.
But you mentioned this list of topics that we get every day.
Yeah.
We have this crack research team. And they come,
They find these things.
not crack addicts, just they're, and they give us all of these topics. You read them all. I don't read them. I skim. I'm a skimmer.
I read them all.
And she reads every book. The authors come on. Today we had 2 people with 2 books. Who's going to read these books? I have a life.
I read the books.
But Sunny does it for all of us. None of
Yeah.
us really are reading those books.
No, just me, apparently.
She's the only one. But as long as one of us is doing it, and if I like the movie or the book, I will
Yeah.
read it. But most of them, I'm like,
I just always feel like when I go on my book tour, I know when people haven't read the book. And I just feel like if you're coming on the show, I want to give you the courtesy of having read it.
I know,
mean,
but it's too many things to do.
there's a lot to do. I mean, I did tell Ted Cruz, he kept on saying to me, I don't know if you remember, if you read the book, I was like, I read your book, and I told him at the break, and it wasn't very good. You're better than this.
She's good.
He's better than that. I mean, it was a crappy book, and he's smart. I mean, he's evil, but he's smart.
Yeah, the worst kind.
Yeah, it's the worst kind.
Sunny brings the receipts, as they say. She does. I mean, that's why when you read the book and you really know what you're talking about, it's good that we have a lawyer who actually does that part.
Yeah.
The rest of it,
It's just my
riding
training.
on your coattails. But she's not just a brilliant lawyer. She's also a man magnet. I don't know.
Oh gosh, my husband's here.
That's all right. She doesn't ask for it.
I
but
do
like,
not.
When we were in Bahar, okay? And we're sitting in a bar area, and I wasn't there. She was sitting there. Suddenly a guy comes over to talk to her because they see a gorgeous woman sitting there and they start talking to her. So then I come over and the guy leaves.
It said that it happened.
So she's a guy magnet, I'm a guy repellent. So,
you're at a bar. I think it's because I have very big teeth, and
It's
so
not your
I
teeth.
smile a lot. And I'm like thinking about things and I'm chuckling to myself, and then they come over and they're like, "Can I get your drink?"
yeah,
I'm like,
every time.
Sure.
It's unbelievable.
At the casino table, someone came up to me and said,
Yeah.
"Would you like a drink?" Joy was like, "I would like a drink as well."
They're like, screw you, I'm not buying you a drink. I hang out with with her anyway. So is there any other thing to say about this man magnet part? Because do you know why? Manny says you smile a lot, right, Manny? That's his. She smiles. Yeah.
I don't even know why it happens so much.
I know, but it does. I'm not making this up.
It does.
They glom on her.
It's weird.
Now, you and I have no siblings.
No.
You
We're
say
only
that,
children.
You say that with a certain disdain.
Because of all of our co-hosts with all those damn siblings. And it's just like, Sarah is like the sister that you didn't ask for, but she's there. You know, she comes into my dressing room. I'm in the bathroom. She just walks into the bathroom. I'm like, why are you walking into the bathroom? She's like, I gotta pee. Because she has a weak bladder, you know.
Oh, does she? I didn't know that.
Constantly drinking water and constantly in the bathroom.
Because she drinks water a lot, not that her
But
bladder's
like, you gotta
weak.
lock the door on her.
I know.
Comes in.
But she crashes in because she's used to having siblings all over the place.
That's why. And I'm like, not. I'm like, naked. I don't want you to see my patootie.
Did you crave a sibling? Ever?
I think at first I did. But I had a lot of cousins. I had one cousin that was really close to me. And I mean, when you're an only child, you get all the attention.
You do.
You get the focus is on
That's
you.
true.
You don't have to share it with
That's
anybody.
true.
And it's good.
Yeah. Well, she travels with a pack also. She's never alone. I mean, I invite her to my house for a party. She brings 20 people with her.
But I
serious.
asked permission first. I said, I'm staying with a house full of people. Would it be okay if I brought some people? And
Yes.
then she's like, you brought too many. You brought a lot. I did it to Don Lemon too.
And then they talk, and then I go to sleep and then leave them there. And she thinks that's rude. I don't think it's rude.
I mean, where is Steve? Her husband's in the audience somewhere. We're all partying, we're having a great time, we're having drinks, and then all of a sudden only Steve is left. And everyone has left except for my crew and Steve.
I'm tired. You know, the other thing people don't know, but I'm going to run through these cards too fast here because we're getting everything in fast.
And by the way, this was in Sag Harbor where I
Yes.
took all those people because
Yes, we can talk
she
about.
summers in Sag Harbor.
I live in Sag Harbor, and
Yeah.
Sunny vacations there.
Yeah.
She also vacations in Martha's Vineyard,
Martha's Vineyard,
which is
yeah.
why the first book was about people in Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, and
But-
you didn't know about this black enclave in Sag
No,
Harbor.
I did know about it.
Oh, because I thought when you came to our house, you were like, what is all of this?
No.
The first time
because
on the
I'd never
beach.
seen how great it was. But
Oh,
I knew
yeah.
it existed.
She knew it existed, but she
It's
hadn't
Nineveh.
visited there.
It's called Nineveh. Right?
Nineveh, Sag Harbor Hills, and Azurest.
Yes.
And I brought her on the beach, and she was like, "This
But tell
is good."
them what that is, what that whole area is.
And actually, I don't know if I told you this, Joy. It's become they really applied for federal recognition of this community as a historically black beach community.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many. There are 3 in the United States where black folks were allowed to buy property. And I was so fascinated when I read Our Kind of People. I don't know if anyone's read that. But it was by Larry Graham, who was a good friend of mine who passed recently. And he wrote to this fact that there has been this black home ownership in these particular communities since the late 1800s in Martha's Vineyard, since the late 30s. And wow, right? Like people wouldn't know that.
Were they given to
No,
African American people?
They worked hard and they bought it. And they bought these, and then they invited their friends. And we're talking about lawyers and doctors and nurses
Yes.
and teachers. And that's what happened in Sag Harbor. A group of people got together and bought what was undesirable property. I mean, you've seen it now. It's very desirable. But it's on the bay
on
and
the
not on
water.
the ocean.
Yeah.
And so people wanted to be on the ocean. They didn't want to be on the bay. So this black group of families bought all the parcels in front of the beach, and then started buying the parcels behind the beach. And now it's sort of this incredibly thriving community of African American people and beautiful houses. And you have people like the founder of Black Enterprise has a house there. Barbara Smith, who owned the B. Smith restaurant, she had a home there. So Vanessa Williams is always on the beach there. So
She is? I
She
never
is.
saw her.
Yeah, Vanessa's on the beach. Vanessa's on the beach. So they have these people that are there that, so it's been a hidden enclave.
Yeah.
Well,
Were white people allowed to live there?
There weren't many white people there because I think they wanted the ocean side. Now, and I write to it in the book, it's going through some gentrification, and the gentleman who had really grown up there, his grandfather bought one of the first homes. His name was Mr. Pickens. You met Mr. Pickens.
Oh yeah, Mr. Pickens.
And he said it was 100% black owned.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, it was about 90% black owned, and now it's about 60% black owned.
Well, they're cashing in because
So
they
it's
bought these
changed.
houses for $10,000,
And
and now they're worth $10 million.
They're worth millions
Not
now.
10 million, but they're worth a couple, 2 or 3.
Six million for one that I wanted.
Really?
That I don't have.
Is that the one you want? Yeah.
That's the one that I want.
Negotiate.
She's been to the house. It's so nice.
But so these books that she writes are about these black communities in
Yeah.
these upper middle class areas of
Yeah.
Martha's Vineyard and
Sag Harbor, and then
Sag
Highland
Harbor.
Beach is the next one.
where is it?
Highland Beach.
Where's that?
It's in Maryland, and Frederick Douglass summered there and had his home
I
there.
dated him. He was so good. All right. So, the other thing people may not know about her, although you could pick it up on the show, it's very competitive, this one. That's why she's a lawyer. I can just picture her
You
acing.
should see my kids and my husband. They're worse.
Well, you're their role model. Like we were at a yard sale for Martha Stewart and fighting over these vases.
I got the best vase. Martha Stewart was like, "That's the vase," and I told you that was
Yeah.
the vase. That was
She's a high-class hoarder, Martha Stewart, She has collections up the walls. I heard that she has houses filled with tables and filled with baskets.
I can't imagine that. I mean, she had a
Unbelievable.
lot of stuff.
A lot of
But
stuff.
The stuff Joy was picking out, I just didn't understand it.
Why? What was wrong with her?
Okay, first you picked out that big, heavy scale.
I know.
People use digital scales. So what were you going to do with that? And it was like a scale that goes on the kitchen.
It was stupid.
That was a bad
Yeah, it was
purchase.
dumb.
And then she got one, a sign that said potatoes, but you don't grow potatoes.
No, but I like signs. I do. I have many signs.
It was things like that.
No, I do. Don't you people like signs? You go to those estate sales and they have signs, corn,
No.
potatoes. I love those
No.
signs. I have them all over the place.
I was like, why are you buying that? And then she couldn't carry it. I couldn't carry it. I couldn't carry that scale back. Poor Steve. I don't know what he did with it when you came home.
I don't know.
I was running through the sale, trying to get some good stuff.
Yeah, but you were fighting with me about which to buy. But
Yeah.
the competitiveness, I'm interested in it, and I'm an only child too, so
Yeah.
I can relate. But what was it about your childhood that made you so competitive, do you think?
I don't
Were you pushed
necessarily
to be?
No, I don't necessarily compete against other people. I compete against myself, which is probably worse.
No, that's the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, I
heard.
want to be the best.
Yeah.
And I want to top myself all the time. And so I
You
don't.
realize, though, that no matter how much you want to be, there's always someone smarter.
Not necessarily.
My girl. Yeah, no, there's always someone better looking, smarter, thinner, fatter. Everybody's so.
I did say this to a friend of mine, and I've never said it to Manny. I said, he's probably smarter than I am, smartest man I've ever known, because I live with him, I don't tell him that. But he's very smart.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
very
there was
smart.
an article I read about different kinds of smart. There's the brainy that you can work a computer. Then there's the emotional intelligence, and then
Yeah.
there's some other one. I can't remember. Something about getting along with everybody.
We don't have that.
We have to get along on that show because when
We
we
do.
don't get along, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
So we do. But this group work gets along.
we
good.
we all like each other.
Yeah. But you're very accomplished, and you come from humble background.
Yeah.
You often say you were raised in the projects
In the South Bronx.
right? Yeah. But went to college, went to law school. How did you do that?
My
People don't know how
parents.
you do things like
It's
that.
my parents. I'm not saying that just because they're here, but I think in many respects they were teenagers, and they ended up with this kid who was very inquisitive. My mother was studying to be a teacher, so she did a lot of her lesson plans on me. And so by the time I was 4, I was reading the New York Times. And so that sounds crazy, but that's how we lived. My father was sort of this math guru. He taught me, you know, all the mathematical tables. And by the time I got into 3rd grade, the teacher said, she's just passed all the standardized tests up to 12th grade. We've got to move her out. So I moved. They found a place for me in Manhattan with better schools. And so they literally moved our family out of, you know, what would have been a comfortable place because my father's family was there, to Manhattan so that I could get a better education.
So they were
because of them.
Proactive. They're here now. Sonny's parents are here, so
Yeah.
that applause
I mean,
was
they
for
didn't
you.
let me do much. I couldn't wear makeup. I couldn't go out with guys. It
I
was
know.
just not a lot of television. It was just reading and homework, a little bit of sports. That's it.
And a very religious Catholic girl, weren't you?
And church.
But your mother's not a Catholic, is she?
My mother is raised Catholic, even though her father was Jewish.
I say.
Yeah.
Oh. So you're a good little Catholic girl writing a book with a lot of sex in it.
You told me that I should write some sex in the book. I don't know if you remember.
I said that?
You said, don't forget, women over 60 have sex too.
Oh, not me, some other women. I don't know who these women are, but whatever.
And so, because I was writing the first book, I was writing it more about 20-somethings.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty far away from 20-somethings,
Yeah.
so I was really reaching. And then when you said that, I thought, Joy and I talked probably the most on the show, backstage, and I just thought, well, maybe I'll make the protagonist, Amma, who was finding love in her 60s, finding love again. And then I sort of wrote to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And that's where the sex scenes came in.
yeah, but they're pretty.
I wanted you to
hot.
read one for the people.
She wants me to read. Now, I picked some, I'll read this one part. But because I looked at, and some of the things she wanted me to read, I would not do. Because I was raised a good Catholic girl also. But I'm just going to read some of it, all right? So that he pumped
See, why does she got to stop there?
her hand up and down, but then he didn't let go. Shaking her hand, I guess, huh? He looked at her in silence, his warm hand enveloping hers. Olivia's heart skipped like a scratch record. She didn't want to let him go. She pulled him down to the bed. Olivia, he growled. What is he, a dog? Rawr, Olivia. He warned. She didn't want a warning. She wanted a taste. Oh. She leaned in, cupped his face, kissed him. The warmth of his tongue explored, plundered. He took over, shoving away her shirt. Ooh. Are you sure? Are you very sure? I don't know what preceded this. Is this post-coital or pre?
It's pre.
Pre-coital. All right. Are you sure? Are you very sure? Olivia's hands shook on his face. His eyes cleared. Sustain, he uses. His eyes cleared, grabbed hers, entwining his long, beautiful fingers with her own. So warm and beautiful and perfect, their skin tones nearly matched. How come?
I don't know.
Glistened and glowed under the soft lighting. Your hands are so beautiful, so beautiful. When she kissed the back of his hand, she realized he'd moved their hands from his cheek. I like you a lot. That's a little strange for him to say that. Oh, it's pre-coital.
It's pre-coital.
So he's still working on her.
It's pre.
He stood from the bed, walked toward the door, whispering his confession. But I like you too. She cut him off before he could cool the moment. She stood and closed the distance. His chest rose up and down. She placed her hand over his beating heart. That's it. Believe me, that is the least pornographic sex part in this book.
She wouldn't read the other ones?
No, I could not. I can't.
You gotta have a little sexiness.
I'm a little shy. I know it's hard to believe, but I am.
Gotta have a little sexiness in a beach read. That's what my editor, Carrie, says.
Yeah, I know. It's good. It's very interesting. So the memoir, I read your memoir. Your whole story is fascinating.
Thank you.
You heard a little bit about it, but the whole way you got from there to here is fascinating.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, did you think when you were a little kid up in the projects, you'd be sitting on this stage interviewing Sotomayor one day? No.
Never, no.
A Supreme Court justice. Pretty good.
No. It's hard to believe still to me. You know, you have dreams, but I didn't dream that big because there weren't people that looked like me doing this. So, you know, they talk about representation, and it may sound a little cliche, but this was before the Oprah days. This was before Gayle King, and I would just look, and there was Barbara Walters, and I would sometimes practice, and I'd watch 60 Minutes. That was one of the television shows my parents would let me watch.
Which one was that?
60 Minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It was appointment television.
When you were like 4 years old, you were watching
in my house,
60
it was
Minutes?
appointment television, 60 Minutes, and it, you know, that was the thing. And I didn't see anyone that looked like me. My mother did get me an internship with Carol Simpson from ABC because my mother's a teacher and she taught her daughter. And she said, you know, my daughter's interested in writing and stuff. Can she shadow you? And I shadowed her for several months. And that was the first taste that I got. Well, maybe this is something that I can do. But she was like the only. And when you only see one person, first you don't see anyone, and then you see one person, it's hard to dream that big because you don't think there's space for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And here I am.
Yeah, here you are.
Yeah.
A lot of people, women in the industry, talk about how Barbara Walters was a role model. Was she for you at all? She was.
She was, because she was one of the only ones.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I was a comedian, so she wasn't a role model for me.
No. Yeah.
She wasn't. I didn't know who I didn't care about, you know, she was doing something completely different.
Did you just audition not knowing, like, what you were getting into?
My story about how I met her was, I was asked to do I told this story 20 times. If you've heard it, just take a nap. But I was, when I was a comic, I was looking for work all the time. That's what you do. You're looking for jobs and trying to make a living. And sometimes you do things for free because people are there. It's like a benefit, and people will see you and they'll give you a job, and it works like that. So somebody called me and said, Milton Berle is turning 89 and they're having a birthday party for him at the Waldorf Astoria. Would you get up and do 10 minutes? So I said, sure, you know. I used to watch Uncle Milty when I was a kid. And so I got up, and first of all, the audience was like the TCM crowd. It was like, you know, all the actresses from that period were there. And I said, what am I going to tell these people? You know, so then I did some bit about Salman Rushdie, about how, you know, he was in hiding. Women never can find a guy. Men always find a woman, no matter how old they are. Right. So take Salman Rushdie. He was in hiding for 10 years, and he managed to get married 3 times. He never left the hotel room, and yet so some bit like that. And Barbara was in the audience. So after I sat down, that was the bit that got her interested.
Really?
So I said to Steve, how did I do? He said, well, everyone was laughing except Barbara Walters.
Oh.
So I said, oh, okay, so I'm not going to work for her. And then she called me.
And then she called you, because it's a smart joke.
Yeah.
She liked the smarts of
She
it.
did. And also, I took the job because of her.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have done a few things at that time in my career, and I said, it's in New York, and it'll be a smart show. And it is.
And
I mean, some people hate us, but it is a smart show. Sorry.
It is a smart show.
Yeah. Do you get more pleasure from cross-examining a defendant or a Republican?
A Republican. These days, a Republican. I mean,
well, they're pretty, first of all, it's redundant.
But
go ahead.
A lot of times, you know, criminal defendants don't testify, but these idiot Republicans get on our show, and it's just,
Well, they don't want to
have
come
so
on
much.
there.
Well, the ones that have, I've had so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you have fun
like,
too.
give me an example. You remember something?
Well, Steve Scalise wouldn't sit with me, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't sit with you either. We weren't out there. He wouldn't sit with us. They don't allow that anymore. That was like a one-off.
But what happened? I don't think I was there that day.
Yeah.
What did he do?
He met with Whoopi, Sarah, and...
Oh, he wouldn't sit with you and me? I never heard that. What an asshole.
He wouldn't sit with us. Because we'll ask the question, you know, if you want to come on the show, be ready to answer the tough questions. That's what it's about. You know, that's doing our job.
Because she's good at that. She didn't ask him a question.
Not really, no.
This guy gets shot and then wants to make more guns. I mean, how stupid can
Well,
you be?
and that's kind of what my question was going to be.
Of course.
You get shot, and you're not
No one asked
you're
him
not
that
in
question?
support of gun control. Like,
Yeah.
That's just counterintuitive. It's like an oxymoron.
DeSantis refused to come on.
He
said
refuses to come on the show.
We were not nice to him.
Don Jr. came on the show, and he came on the show. I actually was sitting. We had Governor Larry Hogan on the show, and
He's
lived
okay.
I
like him.
Not really. I lived in Baltimore, and he routed. I lived in Baltimore City, and because my husband was going to Hopkins, and I met my husband in church. He says I met him at a bagel shop, but that was after I saw him in church. And so I lived in Baltimore City, and he rerouted funding from Baltimore City black neighborhoods to Bethesda and other white neighborhoods in the suburbs that didn't need the money. And so when he was touting all of his accomplishments, I said, well, that's interesting, because I lived in Baltimore. And I owned property in Baltimore, and you funneled money outside of the black communities into the white communities that didn't need it. Why would you do that?
What did he say?
So the funny thing is, because
See why they don't want to come on.
You didn't go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Guess who I'm sitting right next to? Governor Larry Hogan.
Did he remind you of the...
He goes... I was like, come on.
Yeah.
You were the governor.
Yeah.
Like, you should expect people to know your record.
Answer? Why would he do such a heinous thing?
He was talking in circles, you know, and I kept on saying, well, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And I had my papers, and I was saying, no, you did it at this time. And he was like, if I come on the show, are you going to be mean to me again? Asking about facts is not being mean. It's not being mean. But I actually liked him. Sitting next to him, I liked him.
He's personable.
He's very personable, but he did that.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I mean, they're afraid to come on, and yet they want to run for president.
Yeah.
They have to deal with Putin, but they can't deal with Sunny Hostin.
Doesn't make sense.
Come on. So, let's get back to the show in the morning when the topics come up. So would you, which type of story do you dread the most?
I hate the housewife stories.
The housewives?
I don't like that, and I don't like those. I'm not in love with the reality stuff.
We're up to that now? Okay.
I'm just like, I will admit I don't watch a lot of television. I like the streaming, series like Succession and, right? Like I like stuff that's kind of gritty and I'm interested in it. Manny and I fight all the time because like he'll start watching something and he's on the treadmill in the morning at 5 or 6 o'clock, which is crazy. And then he watches all this stuff and then I want to watch it and he's like, oh, I saw that, that was really good. And it's just infuriating. So I don't really watch a lot of that reality stuff. And I'm just like, they start throwing chairs at each other. I don't like that.
Yeah,
that kind
they
of
still
thing.
do that, even though Jerry Springer's dead, isn't he?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do that.
Sorry.
Too soon?
Too soon? Somebody wants to know, do you think Barbara would have enjoyed your book?
I do think she would have enjoyed it.
I do. The sex parts.
Especially the sex parts, because she liked the sexy stuff. Because Barbara actually was, she interviewed me.
Yeah.
And that was really something. I don't know if you remember when Bette Midler came on the show. And I change my questions around. Because sometimes it's hard for people to get my voice. And I'm sure it's hard for you also to get your voice. So I was changing my questions around. And she's like, what are you doing? I said,
Who said that, Barbara?
Barbara.
Yeah.
I said, I was changing my questions. She said, let me see. And I showed it, and she said, good job.
Oh.
And I felt great. I was like floating on air forever.
Really?
So I do think she would have liked it because I try to elevate the beach read. I like a beach read. I like a sexy read because we cover so much sad stuff. We cover police brutality and black trauma and kidnappings and politics and the trans community just trying to be decimated by DeSantis. And when I read, I want to read something that's going to
Yeah.
be light and give me an escape.
Clear your head.
Clear my head a little bit. So I think she would have liked it.
That's why I like movies from World War II.
It's
clears my
always
head.
like a very serious.
'Cause we won.
Sad. But all her recommendations are very like serious and a little sad sometimes.
Whose?
Yours.
Oh. Oh, no, they're not sad. They're tragic.
Tragic. I'm like, that's what you're reading? No, I want.
So it says here,
Happy.
you both, I'm seeing the handwriting, you both made pivots in your lives and started second careers that have been successful. How did you know the right time to make these something?
To make
Pivots.
the change.
Pivots.
Pivots. I generally, and this sounds weird, what I generally do is if I'm laying in bed and the alarm has gone off and I don't want to get up to go to where I'm supposed to go,
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably time.
That is probably time.
It's probably time for change. Yeah, when
Oh,
I just
really?
don't want to be there.
Oh my
Don't
God,
wanna
I have
be
that
there.
every
Don't-
morning. No, I'm not kidding. I wake up and say, what, another day of this? I do, 26 years. So when you feel you want to jump out of bed and seize the day.
Yeah, I want to be happy and I want to
Oh.
see people and,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Because you're there, whoops there. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
But I think you said that you switched jobs because you got fired from Good Morning America.
Well, I kept getting fired, yeah. I enjoy being fired, though. I do, because it puts you in another head. It's like, I don't have to make the decision now. They made it for me, so
Yeah.
I have to move on to something else now. It really works for me.
And that's what she told me. Yeah.
They fired me from The View,
Yeah.
in 2016, was it, or
That was a
something?
mistake.
Before that even, I don't even know the day. I've lost track of time. And I said thank you to them. I've been waiting for this moment. Then they begged
then
me
they
to come
brought
back.
you back.
Yeah. But the pivoting, so well, you were a lawyer your whole life, right?
I'm still a lawyer.
Yeah.
I've kept my bar licenses in every single jurisdiction. There are 4 jurisdictions, just in case, the View decides to fire me.
Yeah. I
who
still have a
knows?
teacher's license in New York State.
Yeah, who knows? You gotta be
Shoot me.
nimble. So
I admire teachers so much, but I've done it, and it's a very, very tough job.
It's very
Just
hard.
clap if you're a teacher in here. Yeah. It's the hardest job. People don't give teachers any credit because it is a nightmare sometimes.
they don't pay teachers
Facing
enough.
those hostile children every morning.
They don't pay teachers enough money.
And I know. It's
They
a very
don't.
tough job. And now they're banning books from the classrooms and, and telling them what
nightmare.
they can teach and what they cannot teach. And it's
People that
just-
don't know anything about teaching are telling them what they should teach. That's what's shocking to me.
Yeah.
You have someone that's a professional, because it's not easy to be a teacher. You have to have a degree, you have to get licensed.
Yeah.
I remember my mom taking like 3 and 4 licensing exams.
Yeah.
Then you have these clowns that are like, I don't want you teaching my kid this. Well,
Yeah.
what do you know?
They
right?
know nothing.
They don't know anything. I trust the professionals. I trust
all
the
it takes is one
professionals.
person. I do this thing called the Joy's Band Book
I
Club
love
on
it.
Fridays, and we feature a book.
It's the best
Thank you.
idea.
Yeah, and so I have realized, and one of my research producers, Sam
Yeah,
is in the audience.
Sam is here.
He picks the books.
It's so good. And the books that are banned, it's kind of shocking because we just did. Which one did you just do? that
Well,
was-
To Kill a
Tony-
Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird
Yeah,
has
and
been banned.
Of Mice and Men. And,
Judy Blume.
Judy
I
Blume.
mean, everybody loves Forever.
Yeah.
And Are You There, God?
Yeah.
It's Me, Margaret.
But all you have to have is a complaint from one person, and they take the book away. It's crazy.
I don't understand it because if you don't want your kid to read it, fine. Your kid doesn't need to read it. Why are you making a decision for me that my kid can't read it? I
Yeah,
don't
right.
like that.
Well, that seems to be a trend, that people
like
in government can't seem to mind their own business.
Yes.
If they would just mind their own business, that's why the abortion thing is an issue
Yeah.
also, because it's don't get an abortion if you don't want it, but leave me alone. It's
Let
like
us
that.
let us parent our children.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Do you want me to read a section of my book?
yeah, let you read a little section now.
The Fathers, February 2021. The day of reckoning had come. A polite but firm phone call from the estate attorney at Cravath, Swain and Moore forced Olivia Jones to face the sins of her godfather. It had been nearly a year since she discovered the truth about her godfather's involvement in her father's death, yet the betrayal still burned. On the cold February morning before the meeting with the attorneys, Olivia sought to reconnect with her godfather by visiting his storage unit, the perfect place to honor his request to read the last letter he'd ever written to Olivia. Olivia had a keen memory, but it was on days like this that she cursed it. It was etched in steel, her godmother Alma's quivering mouth, wet brown eyes, the tremor of her pale beige hands when she slid his letter across the table, pleading with her to read his last words.
Where's the sex?
I didn't read the sex. I read the serious setup.
Hers is like The Godfather and the I don't know if people realize this, but the Hostins have a chicken farm and other animals.
Well,
What else have you got now?
We have 2 Newfies, Newfoundlands. They're about 150-pound dogs. We have a cat. My mother has a carriage house on the property. She has a cat and a dog. We have 12 chickens. Actually, we have 11. One just passed away.
Oh.
And we don't have Nigerian dwarf goats because Manny said he'll divorce me if I get them.
A Nigerian dwarf what?
Goats. You have to have them in pairs. We could make goat cheese. We can do all sorts of things. Manny doesn't want them. Thanks,
The little house
Manny.
on the prairie.
We have 2 beehives, and so we make our own honey.
Who's watching all these animals while you're
My
here?
father has been watching the
Yeah,
animals.
but he's here. Who's watching them now?
Now they're by themselves. We don't know what we'll find when we get there.
Oh my God!
Yes, because
the cat and the dog are
Paloma's
alone?
at an art show, so we don't know what's going on. But Martha Stewart, remember Martha Stewart offered me those geese?
No, I don't remember.
Martha Stewart promised me 2 guard geese so that you can, because with guard geese you can let your chickens free range, because we have hawks and we had a hawk attack once, and so it really freaked me out. And she said, I'm going to give you these geese. They're sandestropal, I think that's what you call them, geese, and they look like they have wedding dresses on. They're going to be beautiful. So then they never show up. I start kind of stalking her about the geese because now she's hyped up these wedding dress geese.
So she never came through.
Never came through with the geese.
Right.
I should call her. Yeah.
She forgot. She's busy hoarding. So this is a question that you're like Sophie's Choice a little bit.
Okay.
Like if ABC ever does a bring your pet to work day, would you bring the chickens or the dogs?
Well, I've already brought the chickens.
Yeah.
Remember, I won Best Pet with Martha. So I think
You beat her out on the pets?
I beat the other host on the pets. So I think I would bring. I can't bring both of the dogs because one is a menace. So I would bring Phineas, the Newfoundland. Am I saying that right? Newfoundland. It's tomato.
Newfoundland. They call them Noofs.
Yeah, Newfies. I would bring Phineas.
You would?
Yeah, and he's smart.
You love
and
him
he's
the
cute.
most.
Yeah. He's cute.
Okay, here's another question. How do you find the time to write a book while working full-time, being a parent, and raising chickens?
The chicken part is easy. You know that chickens are smarter than we think they are. They can recognize up to 30 faces. And yes, and they can fly up to 3 feet, which my husband doesn't like. He doesn't like flying things. But they're pretty easy. And they lay an egg every 24 to 26 hours. So we get like without a rooster. They just lay eggs. What was your question? Oh, how do I find the time? I write at night. It's a little strange because that's when it's most quiet in my home. Like the dogs are asleep, the chickens are done, they're fed, they're nesting in their boxes. You know, the cat is kind of usually curled up next to me. I have a fireplace on. If it's winter, I have a cup of tea or a cup of Belglas, Pinot Noir, red wine. And I just read when it's quiet. I write when it's quiet. So I write from like 11 to 1. And then I go to bed, and then I see you guys in the morning.
I don't know how you do that with all those animals. I mean, we have one dog. I had to get a babysitter to stay with him tonight because the thing freaks out when we're not there.
Bernie is very close to them.
He's so neurotic. Let's see. We did the pivots. Oh, they're asking me too, but you can answer this. You're each multi-talented teacher, lawyer, host, author. How do you stop people from pigeonholing you?
I think I'm still pigeonholed in a sense. I don't
In
know
what way?
if you
They
are
say,
too.
they know you're a lawyer. That's the
They
main.
know I'm a lawyer, but for a while I was a correspondent, and I have a journalism degree, so I really like reporting, actually. I like going out into the field and telling people stories. It feels a lot like being in a courtroom for me and telling the jury a story. And I think because you have Fox News and their hosts giving these crazy opinions that aren't fact-based or substantiated by facts, I think we tend to get lumped into that, and they think that you can't be on a show like The View and also report. And so I don't get to do some of the things that I want to do because they've pigeonholed me as this.
How many more things do you
opinion
want to do?
I want to report. I want to go out into the field and tell stories.
Synchronized swimming, maybe? I was asking you backstage, or asked your mother how she feels about, your oversharing on The View. So I'm going to ask you now again.
Yes.
Does it get you into trouble? Because you tell stuff.
I do tell stuff.
Uh-huh.
I feel like that's part of the gig. And I feel like you have to be very honest with our viewers because they can sniff out when you're lying or you're not being yourself or you're hiding things or you're being inauthentic. That's why I talked about my boob job. I don't care. I had big G boobs. I was tired of them, and I got C boobs. I feel better. I look cuter. I'm fine with it. And, it's fine. And
she even donated them to some poor flat-chested woman out there.
And
she's too good.
I think it's important to be very transparent. You can't do this job without that.
Yeah.
But my kids have sometimes said,
enough, keep quiet.
Really, Mom?
Yeah.
Especially our daughter. Our son is he's older, he's 20, he's okay. My daughter's like, don't post that. Don't post that, don't say that. So I get the warnings.
How about your mother?
She doesn't like it, apparently.
Yeah. And how does Manny like it that you tell people how you met him, how you stalked him to marry him? Tell
I think he
story.
likes the stalking story. Well, what happened is that we met in church, in my opinion. And my mother said that the reason I was dating, I was a serial dater, and I was almost 30, and she thought she would never have grandchildren. You remember this, Mom. She was panicking. So she said, stop dating. I was dating football players and stuff. She was like, stop dating these football players and these actors. If you went to church, you would meet a nice boy. And I was like, there are priests and old men in the church. I'm not going to meet anybody at the church. So I was.
She thought you would meet a guy in church?
Yeah. She's like, that's where you meet the nice boys. And I'm like, says who?
How? They're in their pew, you're in your pew.
Exactly. You don't meet people that way. But I was training for a marathon, and I was running past the church. And I was like, I'm going to go in the church, and so I could tell my mother that I was right about the church. Yeah. And I walk in, and I'm sweaty, and I sit in the back, and I look awful. And then he walks in a suit, looking good. And I was like, wow, there's fine men walking up in the church. This is crazy. Come to find out later, it was like across from Hopkins Medical School, and he goes to church every Sunday dressed very nicely. He still does that today.
That's nice.
So I didn't dare go up for communion because I looked very crazy because I was sweaty and everything. He says I had polyester sweatpants on. That's not true.
It's a no-no. What did he say?
I had a 50-50 blend sweatsuit on. I don't think that's true. I don't remember what I had on. But I followed him to Sam's Bagels. And I said, hi, wasn't the homily, it was just really special at the church. That's all I could come up with.
What a rap.
And he looked me up and down, and he was like, you were in the church? Because he's like that. I was like, yes, it's in the church. And
then you found out he was a doctor, which was a bonus.
Oh, are you kidding me, man? I had this checklist in my head. I want to meet somebody who's like a lawyer, a doctor, someone who's well-traveled. And I was like, so where are you from? Spain originally. Really? Then I said, ¿hablas español? Seguro que sí. And he starts with the Spanish accent. I was like, oh man, he's sexy too. This is amazing. And then I was like, what are you doing in Baltimore? Are you from Spain? He was like, no, I moved to New York. And I was like, cha-ching, I can go back home from Maryland. And then he said, I'm just in my last year of medical school. And I was not gonna let him go. And this is a true story. I called my friend Lisa, who was in our wedding, and I said, I just met my husband, but he doesn't know it yet.
Tell them the story of the dish. Tell that story, it's funny.
I don't even know if Manny remembers the dish. Do you remember?
Refresh his memory.
He just said, I remember the dish. My grandmother, my mother's mother told me that in order to have a successful relationship with a man, they have to think you're a little crazy. Right? It's very good advice.
Why though? Why?
Because they have to be a little bit scared of you.
That you're
Just like a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. But she said, but never tear up their things. Don't burn their clothes. Don't cut their things up because they don't like that. They won't forgive you. What you do is you take something that you love and you smash it and you break it. And then you say to them, look at what you made me do. And so they're like, she's so crazy that she broke her own stuff that she likes. And so I used to collect transferware dishes. So I took an extra dish that I had a duplicate. And I took
you
it.
didn't even do the real one.
I didn't do the real one. And I threw it, right, Manny? I threw it kind of over his head. And I said, look at what you made me do. And you don't remember you told Pierre she's so crazy she broke her own stuff? It worked 25 years later, marriage. It's very good advice grandparents give you.
You were la loca. Let me say, okay, one more thing about personalities, which is my favorite topic.
I know it is.
You say that you don't hold a grudge.
No, I don't.
Never, ever?
It's rare. It's rare that I hold a grudge. I do believe that when people, this is Maya Angelou's, not mine, when they show you who they are, you believe them the first time.
Yeah.
And I take that to heart. I believe them. So you've shown me something shady, I don't ghost, but I distance. I leave you alone, and you can call me and everything, and that's fine, but we call it pendiente. What is that in English? I just remember it.
Oh, you remember it?
I remember it, and then...
Yeah, you remember it, but you don't hold a grudge.
I don't know, no. Well, you certainly can't hold grudges in marriage. That doesn't work.
No, or children.
Or children.
But friends, you can hold a grudge against them.
You can remember what they did. You can remember what they did,
Yeah.
I think. You don't hold grudges because you say you don't remember the stuff.
I don't remember. I have a lousy memory for things like that.
Yeah, we would tell her, like, do you remember what she said to
She
you?
and Anna always telling me, why aren't you mad with so-and-so, what they said about you? I said, I don't remember.
She doesn't remember. She just doesn't remember. I'm like, I remember for you and I don't like it for you.
All right, let's see. Any more questions from the audience? Has your daughter read your book, or your son?
Neither of them have read any of my books. I thought my son would. I asked him to read the chapter about himself in my memoir, and he has not done that yet. Although it was very interesting to me, my son's 20, he's gonna be 21 in August, so he's in the dating phase. And I don't like any of his girlfriends, if I'm being honest. But you can't tell them that. You cannot tell them that because then they cleave, right? So you can't tell them that. So he'll say to me, do you like her? And I say, I don't know her that well. And then he starts bringing them around more.
Well, he wants you to get to know them.
Yes, unfortunately. And then, so now I say things like, our son reads like The Art of War for fun. So I feel that he needs someone that is his intellectual mate.
Yeah.
And so I said to him recently, what is she reading? Why don't you ask what she's reading? She said, I'm reading your mother's memoir. Very manipulative.
Oh. That girl is smart as she's.
I was like, that's a smarty pants over there.
Well, wouldn't you want him to have a smart girl,
But
don't
that's
you?
a manipulative smarty pants. That was a good answer.
That's something you would have done.
I know, that was a good answer. I was like,
All right, we have to wrap this because Sunny has graciously pre-signed all books, and they are available for purchase in the lobby.
yeah.
She signed them all already. Did you? Oh, you have some more to sign?
I mean, if people have books or they want me to, then I'll stay and I'll sign.
Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
Just that what I hope people take away from the series, you can read this book without having read the first one, even though the first one kind of sets it up. But I wanted people to know about these spectacular HBBCs. The next book is going to be in Highland Beach because I think it's so aspirational. And I think this book in particular, I wrote it because the first book came out during the pandemic. I don't know if people realize that. And so I couldn't have a traditional book tour. So I basically had book club virtual meetings. And I met with probably over 50 book clubs. And each of them would buy a lot of the books, and we would talk about the books. And about the book, and they kept on saying, what about Olivia? Olivia got screwed in that book, man. I don't like what happened to Olivia. And so this is a love letter to those readers that felt that they needed to know more about Olivia. And as an homage to you, Joy, I decided that Olivia would also see a therapist. Joy loves therapy. She loves therapy.
I don't see the connection.
I've never been to a therapist, and Joy's always saying that there's some childhood trauma that explains everything about you. And so Olivia, the wound, a childhood wound.
Yeah.
And so Olivia has a childhood wound,
Yeah.
and she's seeing a therapist to figure out who she really is, and more importantly, what she deserves.
Oh, very good.
So that's what I want
All right.
people to
On
take
that
away
note,
from
I
it.
will conclude this. Thank you all for coming. And Sunny is going to sign more books, right?
Yes.